appreciate your time.
Yeah, not a problem, not a problem.
So I just want to start off and say congratulations on the win and getting back at the UFC. I'm sure that feels amazing.
It certainly does feel amazing. I wish in some ways it was more of hurrah, like a little bit, I don't know, more energizing, but it's one of those where it's a nice like just exhale, release, and the, in some ways the pressure's off now. And now I'm going to start stacking new pressure because that's just the way I operate. But the pressure's off for the short time being right now, at least.
And I'm sure it was nice too to like have that moment in front of a crowd compared to like the Apex. You know, nothing wrong with the Apex, but it's just a special moment you had there in Boston.
Absolutely. The Boston crowd was amazing. Like they were fantastic, filled with energy. First things, like I think from the first fight on the card, there was a good amount of people there, So to have that energy, those reactions in the fights, I think, John Kavanaugh, my coach, he said in the corner it was kind of neat watching, the crowd shift from, let's say, America chants to some of the Irish chants taking over in the fight and just all that. Yeah, looking out there, it felt good. It felt really good.
And so when it comes to the actual fight, was there anything that surprised you about Cody in the Octagon or, just anything about yourself out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Cody might fade a little bit sooner. In all honesty, I thought he would get discouraged with some of the shots I landed a little bit more. I did hear from one person say like his orbital bone might be broken, so the fact that he kept on taking those shots, I don't know if that's true. Either way, he wasn't in the best way after the fight. Needless to say, but the fact that he kept on going and kept on going, I was a little bit slightly surprised. I wasn't surprised that he was tough and durable and wanted. He has a lot of probably every reason in the world to keep fighting and keep pushing. But like today, my hands are still all bruised up from landing heavy shots, and it's not like I was hitting him on the top of the head or hard parts. It was right on the chin. I remember in the third round feeling the glove fully compressed, and I was, man, these are the hardest shots I can land, and he's still going. They're hurting him, but he's still going, and I guess part of that surprised me. But at the same time, you're just in the moment, and you're just needing to go, oh, okay, you ate that, and then go again.
And so do you think any part of this fight was personal? Because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel like for you, it didn't seem personal, but for him, it feel like very personal. Like he had really something against you.
Maybe, that's unfortunately that's more of a question for Cody than myself. He might have used it as fuel during the camp. I certainly leaned on it. Like if I can use it to my advantage, I will. But then I never had a problem with Cody. Going back to the show, there'd be times where I'd see him in the house and he'd be speaking. I'd go, man, like him and I are somewhat similar. Even our road back to the UFC was somewhat similar in that I fought killer after killer, but so did he. Like he fought and beat John Dodson. He fought Ray Borg. These are guys who have fought for a UFC title before. So uh, he certainly took the hard road back in. There was no favors given to Cody necessarily, and so I I felt we were very similar. Yet some days he was just a grump, and he'd be complaining about something I'm doing. Maybe it was genuine. Maybe it was something he orchestrated for maybe to secure a future. Either way, you know, I saw it as fear, and so that's where I knew I had him. Every round I saw him staying on the stool. That was extra couple seconds of going, I got you. Like I'm starting to pull ahead. These are close rounds, but I'm starting to pull ahead, and we got to see it near the end of the second. Just the tide completely turned, and same in the third.
And so just to touch on the thing, the scene that happened in the Ultimate Fighter house, do you know what really led to that? Because from a viewer perspective, it seemed like it was kind of just out of nowhere.
Yeah, even in the house, it was somewhat out of nowhere. To give you guys some context, that was about an hour before leaving for my semifinal fight with Timmer. And I felt it was, again, going back to the comment I made about fear, Cody didn't want to fight me, I felt. Because I don't know if there was, all things said and done, I have a lot of respect for him, but I don't know what his path to victory against me was. Against Timmer, well, I'd say somewhat similar fighters in some ways, complete fighters with striking and wrestling. But Timmer's been hurt in fights before, and Cody's hurt guys in fights before. I think Cody could see, well, I might be able to keep Timmer on the back foot, pull him onto a right hand, and that's it, similar to what Jack Shaw did. But with me, I don't really know what Cody's path to victory was. Like I don't know how he was going to win that fight. In all honesty, I felt I was the more refined fighter. Okay, he has length, but if he wants to use it, he'd have to be on the back foot, in which case he's by the cage and I could wrestle him there. So maybe how he fought me was his path to victory, but that's almost hoping there's a chink in my armor. Like, that was, you haven't seen it yet. So I feel like Cody knew that. He knew I wasn't a great fight for him because of all of that. And he was hoping that he could get me out of the way. Hopefully Timber can beat me. So I feel like that's where it came from. But really, I think how it popped off was it was the last day of filming, it's the day of the semifinal fight, and I'm not biting. Like the night before that, I brought my own blanket into the house and pillow, because from the first time on the Ultimate Fighter, I was like, man, the pillows and blankets here suck. Like they just do. You can ask for new ones, but they just give you a second crappy pillow. A lot of what they bring you is the best of the best, like great food, all that. But that was one bit of comfort. I was like, this time I'm going to learn my lesson. So I brought my own blanket, brought my own pillow. I go to lie down the night before the semifinals. I'm like, my damn blanket is wet. It's damp. Are you kidding me? Like it's at like 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, man, we were sharing a room. I was sharing a room with Hunter and Cody, and I was like, man, my blanket's all damp. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go to bed. I knew it was him without even asking, because there was some stuff that happened already in the house. So next day, wake up, got a good night's sleep, and I'm not biting on it because it's fight day. None of this matters. All this is going to be distraction. And then I'm walking around, and he's surrounded by Chandler and some of the coaches and teammates. And I guess because I haven't bitten yet, he prods, and that's what it was. He prods. Oh, you're boring. I think he wanted me to go there and try to have a maybe slugfest with Tim, or just throw me off or something. But for me, I was like, you know what? It's an hour before. After that conversation, wrote in my journal, put everything, remind myself that this is his fear coming out, and he should be scared.
And it must have felt good too after he said, "Oh, you're a boring fighter. You went in there, you went to war with him, you got the win." So that must have been a nice little moral victory too.
Absolutely. That fight, saying I'm not a fighter, that was an attack. I'm not a fighter. I'm just going to hold you. And the thing was, my fight before the Ultimate Fighter, I fought a 5-round fight, out striking, a Dagestani wrestler. It was almost striking, netting knees, elbows, real dog fight against an 8-1 high level, pro. And I was like, are you serious? You're telling me I'm not a fighter? So then to have the Timmer fight where I get cut from a headbutt, I'm bleeding everywhere, and I still pull out the victory. And then now this, I'm like, man, just because I don't want to show that toughness card doesn't mean it's not in my back pocket. But I guess now it's no secret, and here we are.
And just last question about the Ultimate Fighter. Do you think Cody Gibson deserves to be back in the UFC right away, or does that take a little bit away from your accomplishment?
No, like it doesn't take away from my accomplishment at all. I think he absolutely deserves to be there. You look at his fights in the house, 2 first round stoppages. If I'm the one that beat you again, I feel like I belong. I'll say I'll say in the top 5, but really in the top 15. Yeah, I think you can say like I hold my own in that top 15, no argument. You know, so for him to essentially have to draw that doesn't mean he doesn't belong in the UFC. He's an exciting fighter. I personally would like to see him in the UFC because he's a family man. He has kids. Like why should he go and rebuild on the regional scene for what? To make a couple $1,000s, but you know, stopping a couple prospects. Who does that help? He belongs there. He has more exciting fights in him. Just give him the opportunity. That's what I asked for. If beating John Dodson, knocking out Francisco Rivera isn't enough to be in the UFC, what is?
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point. So moving on, when it comes to, you getting back into the UFC now, what do you have to do different than the first time around, other than, merely just keep winning fights?
Well, just keep winning fights. In
Yeah.
all honesty, that's the only thing that led me astray in my first outing. It's not. It's funny because a lot of people said I shouldn't have been released, and that's how I feel. But they maybe think that something was happening. Oh, Brad was kicking his feet up. He wasn't working harder. You know, it was the exact opposite. We had the right formula, and we refined it. Obviously, we're going to keep on refining that formula. That the training methodologies, the nutrition, every part of my game, we're going to continue to refine because at the end of the day, I'm an engineer and that's what I need to do. I can't operate any other way. But when I was in the UFC, I don't feel like I was doing anything wrong. I was doing everything I possibly could. But what's different this time? What is different this time? Well, I'm a whole lot more hardened. That was a hard road to get back. Like it nearly broke me. It nearly broke me, but we're here. I think you can see in my striking the aggressiveness, uh, the meanness, the nastiness. A lot of that is coming from my striking coach, Dave Roach, and he's been a new addition the past 2 years. And the thing is, we laid so much groundwork, such a solid foundation that my improvement's going to be accelerating. It's not just going to be linear. It's not going to just be stepping up. We're actually going to be accelerating. So I'm excited in 3-4 months time, the new version of me. It's I don't know, just it makes me so happy to know I'm on this path, and I'm just excited to show it off because we did so much work and it's starting to show. It's starting to show in the fight. Small little details in the clinch, pulling back to draw Cody on to land the elbow. That's all stuff we've been working on, and I didn't even know I knew it, but it's there, and that's his work. That's a lot of Dave Roach, and I love John, but that's Dave Roach, and so him being a part of the team now, having the two of them, it is the yin and the yang, and it's just I'm uh I'm excited for that, and that's how continuing on that path is how we're going to get to the title.
And so I know it's in the past now, but I've never interviewed you, so I just got to ask, were you very surprised when you did get cut? Because, we see some guys go in there, they'll lose 3, 4 times, maybe even still get another chance. You lost against 2 high-level opponents.
Yes, and I think the Hunter fight, arguably, I didn't use it. So uh, I, I was talking with my family yesterday, and we were looking back and kind of enjoying the moment. And it was like, yeah, the last time I had stability in my life was in October of 2019. I just moved into a new apartment. Yeah, the Hunter fight was over, but I had some money in the bank, and it was 1 week. It was 1 week in that new apartment, and then UFC release, and then all this road back, and being a free agent during COVID was about as much fun as that sounds, and going into Brave, fighting in enemy territory for a lot less money than I was making in the UFC, and then this Ultimate Fighter, even winning the semifinal fight, my UFC dream was still in jeopardy. If I didn't win the fight in the finale, that was it. That was it. That was the UFC dream done for Brad Katona. We fought so hard to get there, yet it could have just disappeared like that, just gone. So no stability since then. So yeah, it was. I think it was. I was wrongfully released, but it all happens for a reason. And look at me now. Like, look at the animal it's made. And yes, maybe I didn't have that time in the UFC, but I have it now, and I'm not letting go of it.
And so when do you want to return to the octagon?
Really, right now, it's the boring answer, but I'm on
Mhm.
strict orders from my coach to somewhat enjoy the moment. Again, we're
Yeah.
talking about stability. I haven't seen it in nearly 4 years, and he goes, this unique achievement of winning tough twice, and even getting fight of the night, like you, this is unique, and is you should take a minute and enjoy it. With that said, there's a big pay per view in December, and I'm 100% healthy. So if that's a possibility, fantastic. I don't even know if it is. Like, I could be saying December, and UFC is like, no, not at all. So being less than a week removed from the fight, my mind's throwing out options, and December could be very exciting. A UFC Canada card would also be amazing. So those are the two, at least in my head, where I'm going. One of those two, I I'm a happy camper if I get either one.
Do you plan on going vacation or anything like that just to really enjoy the moment, like you were saying?
Right now I'm back home in Canada, and this is kind of exactly what I needed. Hug my family, hug my friends, absorb that. I'm not one to kick my feet up usually too much. Like, I've already kind of been poking out, thinking about how we can improve on what we're doing, and it's nice. The creative process is starting to come out because I'm not on empty anymore. I'm not, in the gym under the same stimulus. It's like, break up the scenery, enjoy. It's so hard being away from home. Like, I have so many
Mhm.
great people behind me, but you know again, I'm on strict orders from coach to enjoy this and soak it in, and I don't have a problem doing that because I know it's the right thing. It's the when I was on empty leaving the Ultimate Fighter house, and we got me back to baseline, and I was able to put on this performance. Let's see what a week of relaxing here does. Recharge the batteries, and then, man, it's just, again, I'm just so grateful to be in this position because you think about a couple months ago, I things were looking pretty bleak.
And so whenever you do return, who do you see yourself facing? Not an exact name because it's a little too early for that, but like, do you want to jump right into the top 15? Do you think that they'll give you someone out of the top 15 to earn a spot? How do you see this playing out?
I'd certainly like someone in the top 15, but I don't think that's happening. But if it does, hey, fantastic. We get to jump the queue a little bit and go up. Really, my sights are set on the title. So what I don't necessarily have 100% control of that road, but I have control over my preparation. That's where I'm going to focus on. And again, I'd say it's not the sexiest answer of well, we'll see. But really, I feel like it we're so recently removed from the fight that I don't know what the UFC's plans are for me, but I know what my plans are, and that's getting back to work and putting on another, great performance. I think I've done that. My last two fights, the Carlos fight, there was a lot of reasons why it looked the way it did, but you look before that, and man, I perform when the pressure's on. So honestly, anybody, they could call me for the title shot right now. I'd go, absolutely, we're ready, and we'd get a plan together. So it the opponent doesn't change anything.
And so speaking of the title, obviously Aljamain Sterling or Sean O'Malley just knocked out Aljamain Sterling. What were your thoughts on seeing that and just Sean O'Malley as a fighter?
Sean O'Malley's extremely deceiving. He plays this, goof, if you will.
Yeah.
But But you look at the people around him, and there's no accident those people are. It's not an accident those people are around him. He's a very smart guy. He seems like a very hungry man. Like he's. This is no accident, and that's what I've been saying all along. Of course anybody would have liked his road in the UFC. They were fairly favorable matchups, but for the most part, he delivered and he stayed on the process. It probably would have been very easy for him to be kicking the feet up, and that's what you're hoping he's doing. Right now you're hoping that Sean's kicking his feet up, but at least for me, I'm thinking, yeah, he might be relaxing, but he's plotting and planning. So I think he's a calculated individual, a dangerous fighter, and hence what we saw on Saturday night.
And that's all I have for you today. I really do appreciate your time, Brad. And I just want to say I'm so happy for you, and I hope for all the best in the rest of your career.
Thank you very much. It's great talking to you guys. It was hard being away from all this, so I'm soaking it all in. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks again for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Take care.